Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our Dynamics GP Coffee Break SSRS reports. My name is Tess, and I'm the facilitator today. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the questions area in the control panel on the right-hand side of your screen, and we'll answer them at the end. This session will be recorded and shared with you later this week. Now I'd like to introduce our presenter today, Don McNulty, who is a solutions architect on our Dynamics GP team at Encore. And Don, I'll pass it over to you.
Thanks, Tess. Okay, so this morning we're going to talk about SSRS reports. So it's something that was added to GP a little while ago. So the agenda is figure out who we are, of course, but SSRS reports in GP. We generate SSRS reports, which SSRS stands for SQL Server Reporting Services. So what it is it's a SQL report that is run from a web browser, and it can be activated from within GP. It can be accessed from within a web browser. And then once you've got it accessed, you can export to Excel. Just like all reports inside GP, the security on this is set based on the individual users. Now, because this is external to GP, the GP username and password is not used. It uses Active Directory or Windows authentication in order to get these to work properly. So there is some security setup that you need in order to have this done. Then I'll talk a little bit about the modification of these reports. In other words, how do I modify them if I need to make some small changes or things like that? How do I add a field and things like that, and then where the tables come from. With SSRS, you are not limited to anything that people think is in GP. So if you've got something that you want to link your customers to your vendors or your vendors to items and things like that, you can create SSRS reports that link anything together. You can also link in other third-party data from any SQL database quite easily into these reports, and they can be written accordingly. They're not easy to write, better than the GP report writer, but still not that easy to write. Performance-wise, they're fairly quick. They run off of a SQL server, so they can run on a web and a wide area. They run fine. They just run through a web browser. The nicest thing about them from a user's point of view or from a firm's point of view is that you can provide these reports to people in your organization, and they don't require a GP user license. So they just need a SQL license on your domain and a domain user. And once they've been authenticated, you can then run the reports. We can control who sees what report and what databases they see based on that, so that you can control the security, but you can provide these to people so they can run these reports without having to call accounting in order to do it. So without anything else, we will go over to, let's just go like this. All right, so what I'm going to talk about first is how do we get at them from GP. So when we're in Great Plains, there is on the side, so in the navigation panes on each of these different ones, you will find one called Reporting Services Reports. These are all reporting services reports that are working within Great Plains. So this is like trial balance detail, trial balance summary. Now, most of the analytical reports that you currently use inside GP are also available in SSRS. So that is things like trial balances, as well as like age trial balances, historical age trial balances, inventory stock statuses, historical stock statuses, as well as one that is only available in SSRS, which is the historical received not invoiced for those of us that are using purchase orders and inventory and need a received not invoiced report. That is a backdatable one that will actually go back and tie out to your general ledger at the end of the previous periods. So I'm going to deal with the trial balance detail. It's a fairly simple report. It's just a list of all the different transactions that are in there. So what you would do is you come into here, you select it, and you double click it, it will open it up, and it opens it up and it looks like this. So inside here we have posting accounts, whether inactive accounts, yes or no, Is it a history year? I'm going to say no. And what year am I using? 2027. My date is all in 2027. Inside here, I'm picking up a start account and an end account. I have these defaulted in. You can set those defaults yourself, and I'll show you how to do that when we go into the modification of the reports. So we got 1100 to 1303. And then, of course, the year, I have to match up the date range that I want in order to match to the fiscal year that I'm looking at, which is 2027. And then what do I want to sort by? I'm going to sort it by account number because everything's 000. When I hit view report, it will generate a report, and the report looks and just like the ordinary report that comes out of GP. So this is identical to the GP report. The only difference here is that unlike GP, you can export these things fairly simply to a number of different formats. So inside here, you can see I've got my originating master number, originating master name, distribution reference, the trial ballot, the originating audit trail, and things like that. So this is all the information that you may need. You can add additional fields as part of the modification. Say, oh, gee, I really want to see the description, or I really want to see this, or I want to see that, the original document number, or something like that, depending on what it is that you wanted. Once you've done that, underneath the save, you have a number of choices. You can save it as a CSV file. You can also save it as an Excel file, as well as, I don't know why you'd save it as a Word file, but you can. The other one that people sometimes do is to a PDF so they can send it. This is a very good report to send to a bank, for instance, when we do an age trial balance, you need to send your accounts receivable listings at the end of the month to the bank for financials. You can easily get a PDF right here just by pushing this one and pushing it out to that. You can also put it out to Excel and modify it if you want to. When you put it to Excel, unlike the GP reports, each of these columns that you see become columns inside Excel, and the mathematics can be done inside Excel if you need to make any changes to it. So that's a really high, one of the big things that people always ask me about it. And when you click Excel, it just asks you to download it. It'll load it up. And then what do I want to do with it? I want to open it, and I can open up the Excel file. Come on. And then what it does is it formats the Excel file on the way in, and then it will open it up in there. So these reports, there's lots of them. There are approximately 130 of them total, including all the key fields. So when I go back, there's my X. There it is. Finally showed up. There it is there. And as you can see, these numbers inside here are actually that. They are numbers. So that you can actually do mathematics on it and things like that. You can go like so and things like that. So these are columns as you expect. So that would be that's what you would see. So this gives you something that you can then format accordingly. You can then streamline some of the headers to make it easier to work with as a data file if that's what you need for data exports. I'm just going to minimize the Excel. So let me just go back to my Dynamics GP. So inside here, you'll see there's a large number of ratios and things like that. These are quick little ratios that you can use inside GP. It allows you to look at dashboards and things like that inside GP using the navigation panes, which is another conversation for potentially another day. So once you're into the website and you go into your website inside here, and we go back to here, this is what it looks like. So inside here we have a list of all of the companies. These are my companies. This stands for Multi-Bin and Multi-Bin 2 Inc. 2 and TWO18, which is my sample company. That's what I'm using. Inside each of these, when we click on these, we have all the different modules that you have inside GP. And these are the same lists that you see inside GP. And if I click on financial, it then gives me a list of all the financial pieces inside there. Your charts and KPIs, if you need them, are in one level deeper. They are inside here. I'll take a second to refresh. And these are all the different balances that they've given as a KPI. These are the KPIs that Microsoft has written for you. These are all default. I have written none of these. That doesn't mean that you can't change them. It doesn't mean that you can't write your own. It just means these are the ones that they send you and say, here's a starting point, and then you can modify them accordingly. So I'm going to go into the trial balance detail, the one that I was just in, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to edit it. The way you edit it is you hit the three little buttons on the side here, and you click on Edit in Report Builder. Now, Report Builder takes a while to open because you probably would need to download it the first time. So I already have it running. So here it is here. This is the Report Builder. So this is what would then pop up by hitting that report. I haven't done nothing inside here. So when I go into here, these are the parameters. Now, those are the parameters at the top of the report. These parameters are things that you would enter that say, okay, I only want specific accounts. Inside here, I can put in starting account number. When I click on this, I can come into here and I can change my default value. I've got no default value specified here, so I can go in and I can select whatever default value, whatever value is on the list. This is based, I can get the value from a query if that's what you want to do. So I'm going to leave this one the way it is here. The other thing I want to do is you notice that I had to change the dates on those things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into here and I'm going to go to starting date. And right now, prompts for the starting date is visible. The default value, I'm going to specify. I can say no default value. So I'm going to hit specify a value, and the value that I want to add is I'm going to go add 2027. Oops, extra zero there. Sorry. We go OK. So now when I start, it'll say 2027. And when I go into here, I can come into here and I can go to the ending date and I can do the same thing on that. And I can go specify the value. Well, let's just put in no default value there. And we go OK. Now when I run this at the top, I can test it. I run it like so. It pops up and you'll see that it says 1/1/2027 here. And it has no default here. It has the little piece inside here. So I can say I want it to, let's type in 04/30/2027, like so. And then when I select my value in here, I can go by account. And now when I run this, I have to select the value here. So I'm going to pick the first account. And I'm going to go view report. Whoops. We go, is this a history year? No, it's not. Come on. And 2027. View report. You have to fill in the parameters, obviously, it can't run. And now I get that same report that I just got, except that I've defaulted some more pieces inside here. One of the things I might say, well, gee, I always want to run this without the history year. I don't want to keep answering that question. So I can go design again, and then I can go into my history year here. And right now it's under a prompt. Default value is no default value. I could add a default value. I could specify add 2027. Is that right? No. Let's go cancel for a second. We'll leave that one and I'll change the year here. Instead, default value, specify the value. We go OK. Oops. Default values, specify, add 2027. We go OK. And now when I run it, it's going to default into 2027 there. As soon as it finishes recompiling, and we go, is this a history year? No. And then we will then be able to, there's the 2027 automatically pops up. And you could then default this one to there. I'd have to figure out whether it's a 1 or a 0 that we need to use, but there you are then, and you can select the value here. And you can select 1330 or whatever it is that you wish to, whichever one you wish to select. So this then, once this has been done and you've saved it, okay, I'll go back to design. I'm going to take that history year out. And I'm just going to go default values and no default and go OK. To put it back the way it was. Once you finish this, you can save this. I can go file and save. And when I go save, it then saves it, and it will then save it and publish it so that people can then use those changes. You can save as, so you can create a brand new one beside it, so that you can create as many different copies as you wish. So if you're working, I would never suggest that you overwrite like I just did, but what you can then do from here is when I close this report writer, report builder, I now go back to my and I go to financial, trial balance detail, and it's no 2027. Something like that, and then you fill in your different dates. So there you are, and then the report would then run. So that's how you would modify them from that point of view. Now, the next thing is, so let's go back into here and let's talk about the different tables and things that you can add to them. Again, we edited in the report builder. I didn't mean to shut it down. It says you're opening it. We hit open. And as I said, it takes a second. It caches it in, because it's all web-based. Once it's been cached, it's a little quicker the second time than it is the first time. So I made sure that was done. It connects to the report server. That's my server name, that desktop that you see there. And then we're back to where we were. So that's the parameters we talked about, the built-in fields. Images, you can put in pictures and things like that. I don't believe I have any images, just a bevel. Data sources, this is the GP company. This data source is how you know which company you're looking at. And you can create data sources that are based on queries within SQL. The SQL query can include multiple companies and multiple data sets. In your data sets, we have stored procedure, fiscal year, things like that, segments names and things like that. When I look at this field here, this is a list of all of the fields that are there. If I wanted to add an additional field inside here, I can do so. So if I was to go down and grab, I've got the description here, the distribution reference, but I don't have the reference itself. So if I scroll down, I should be able to find reference. Where is it? And you can pick up whatever you need from inside there, the account numbers and things like that. And there should be one in here called reference description. I've got the description, there's the reference, and all we need to do is we just need to drag it across and put it right there, like so. Whoops. Let's go like that and go reference. Put the reference in there, it expands it out, and now when I run it, it should pop up with the same thing. It recompiles. And again, I'm going to put 04/30/27. And I'm going to select by account and view report. It will then go and generate the report. It generates it using a stored procedure. The advantage of SSRS reports over Excel reports and over SmartList is that you can run, there are stored procedures inside GP that do some calculation in the background, like calculating opening balances and closing balances and things like that. So there it is there. And as you can see here, I have a reference here. I haven't made it look nice. That should have been moved down a bit, but I'm not too worried about the view of it. I wanted to show how you can add that information. And you'll notice that it automatically wraps. One of the things about SSRS that it does, which GP does not do, is that it does what they call word wrap. So it automatically will wrap a field around. So if you've only got room for 30 characters in a field, if the actual entered information is 50 characters, it will wrap the other 20 characters underneath, just like you see here where it says inventory transfer, entry, receiving transactions, and things like that. So these are the different ones, and these are the MOs that have been popped through. And obviously, when it does that, it gives an extra line and things like that, and you can remove the extra lines and things like that. But there's your reference now put in there, so you've got all your information that you need. So this just allows another way of doing it. And again, I can dump that out to GP, and or dump that out to Excel if I wanted to. All right. Security-wise, talk a bit about security. When we're in security, the security is done inside SQL Reporting Services rather than being done inside GP. So when I'm inside each of these reports or any of these folders, so if I go back to my folder here and I go into my field service folder here, I can then manage inside here, I can manage the folder, and in the manage the folder, I have the security. And this is coming from top level. So if you put it at the top level of the company, it rolls down to all the things underneath it. You can do it at any level that you wish. I'm a browser, a content, my reports publisher. So this is everything. The built-in administrators always have everything. And that would be your SQL administrator, probably your DBA. And then this is who I'm logged into this machine as is admin. So that's where that is. As I move down in this, if I go back to field services, and I go back into 2 and I grab an actual report inside field service, for instance. We open that up and I got a return to vendor hard copy. When I go into here, I can go manage here. Now, when I manage on an actual report, I've got a lot of other pieces that I can do. So I can change the parameters and things like that inside here. So it lists the parameters that are there. It lists the data sources and things like that. But most importantly, it has the security button down here. Let me just click on it. And we'll just pop up the security. Again, we've got that same look. It's rolled down from the top level. I have mine all set to global, but you can then set in here, you can set individual usernames or groups. The way most people like to set it up is by group. So you've got a group of people that get the accounts receivable control files. So you put a new employee into the group, he automatically gets access to it. If you do it by individual, every time you have a change in staff, you need to go in and change all your security, which is sometimes a little more painful, especially considering this is not something that most admins inside your Windows environment are going to be knowledgeable about in order to how to set it. So you kind of want to set it to a group, tell them, okay, he's part of the AR reporting group, he's part of the AP reporting group, he's part of the GL reporting group, and then you can give them all that. Or he's part of the GP reporting group for that matter. So inside there, history snapshots, it will keep history so you can see how often it's been run. So if I was to go back to here, I'm not sure if I got it set up that way or not. We'll go to financial and we'll go to manage. History snapshots. And you can take a history snapshot. So you can take a snapshot of something and then store it here. So you can store your month-end reports here. And then you can rerun them at any time. You just come into here and run them accordingly. So when you're doing your age trial balance, your historical age trial balance, the balance to your GL, when it's all balanced nice and easily, you put it into here and it's there for anybody to pull at any time. They don't need to rerun it from scratch. Especially good for some of the longer reports. As you know, some of the reports take some time to generate, especially things like historical ones, where there's a large stored procedure that's running in the background. You can subscribe and you can then send things out. You can automatically send them by email and things like that. So there's lots of functionality inside here. I don't have enough time to cover it all off today. So that is kind of how this works from that point of view. There's the manage. You can change the name of it if you wish. You can hide the item and how do I run before I time out and things like that and create reports. And then, of course, you've got the editing report builder here as well. Editing report builder only shows if they have security for it, and then they will need to download the onto their web browser that particular piece of software. All right. Are there any questions? Let me bring back the slide. Actually, I'll leave that like this and just ask for questions. That way, if there's any questions, I can answer them with showing them. Tess, do we have any questions?
Yes, there are. The first one is, when selecting an account number, can you type over the account rather than having to select an account from the drop-down menu?
By default, it's a drop-down menu, but yes, you would change that, the setting for that so that it's not coming from a query that you can key in the number. So that's up to you as to how you want that to operate.
Sounds
But you
good.
can make a change for it. Yes.
The next question is, are the SSRS reports only available in certain versions of GP, as I can't see it in the menu selection of our GP?
All right. They are available on GP version 2013 and better. Actually, might have been 2010 when they first came out. You do need to run a specific piece inside GP. Under admin, somebody who with privileges needs to run your reporting tool setup. And this is how you deploy them inside GP. So what happens is that once you've got your SSRS engine running on the SQL Server, which is the first step, once that's running, then you can come into here and you put in the URL of where it is, and then you deploy them down here. And as you see here, I've already deployed them. You just select the company that you wish, and you hit deploy reports, and all the default reports get deployed to that report server. So if you don't see them on the left-hand side, it's because this has not been run. Assuming that you're on 2013 or better.
Sounds good. How is this different than Management Report Designer?
Okay, Management Reporter runs off the general ledger and runs GL information as a summary record and produces financial statements. One of the things you'll notice on this one here was that we had from and to. So we can run a report that gives me all the accounts from 1,000 to say 1099. In Management Reporter, you want to say, oh, I want on this line, I want to see account number 1,000 and 1,010. And on the next line, I want 1,001. So they're not sequential numbers necessarily in Management Reporter. And they also provide a change in balance for specific periods. So a financial statement presentation rather than a detailed data flow, which is what this one is. So this is used for detailed data. Management Reporter is done for summary financial statements.
Sounds good. Thanks, Don. Those are the only questions that have come in.
Okay.
So maybe we'll navigate back to the PowerPoint slides.
Yep, hang on. Let me go from current slide. Here we are.
Sounds good.
All
so
right.
we have, yeah, do you want to talk about our last?
Go ahead.
Okay. We have the last coffee break webinar in our reporting series happening in June. And if you'd like to register for that, you can navigate to our events page. I will put that link just in the chat for anyone who's interested in registering for that webinar. And
that one's where we'll talk about that, the management reporter that we just talked about the summary report that you can get from Management Report.
That's great. And that's all the content we had for today. So thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you, Dawn, for sharing that with us today. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thanks,